Session 31 Origins and Related Words. 1. No reverence. The iconoclast sneers at convention and tradition, attempts to expose our cherished beliefs, our revered traditions, or our stereotypical thinking as shams and myths. H. L. Mencken was the great iconoclast of the 1920s, Tom Wolfe, the candy-collared tangerine flake streamline baby of the 1960s. Adolescence is that confused and rebellious time of life in which iconoclasm is quite normal. Indeed, the adolescent who is not iconoclastic to some degree might be considered either immature or maladjusted. The words are from icon, a religious image, plus klein, to break. Iconoclasm is not, of course, restricted to religion. 2. Is there a God? Atheist combines the Greek negative prefix a with theos, God. Do not confuse atheism with agnosticism, the philosophy that claims that God is unknowable, that he may or may not exist, and that human beings can never come to a final conclusion about him. The agnostic does not deny the existence of a deity, as does the atheist, but simply holds that no proof can be adduced one way or the other. 3. How to know. Agnostic, which is also an adjective, is built on the Greek root nostos, known, and the negative prefix a dash. An agnostic claims that all but material phenomena is unknown, and, indeed, unknowable. A diagnosis, constructed on the allied Greek root gnosis, knowledge, plus dia dash, through, is a knowing through examination or testing. A prognosis, on the other hand, is etymologically a knowing beforehand, hence a prediction, generally, but not solely, as to the course of a disease. The Greek prefix pro dash, before, plus gnosis. Thus, you may say to a doctor, "What's the diagnosis, doc?" Diabetes. Then you say, "And what's the prognosis?" If you take insulin and watch your diet, you'll soon be as good as new. The doctor's prognosis, then, is a forecast of the development or trend of a disease. The doctor knows beforehand, from previous similar cases, what to expect. The verb form of diagnosis is diagnose, the verb form of prognosis is prognosticate. To use the verb prognosticate correctly, be sure that your meaning involves the forecasting of developments from a consideration of symptoms or conditions, whether the problem is physical, mental, political, economic, psychological, or what have you. In school, you doubtless recall taking diagnostic tests. These measured not what you were supposed to have learned during the semester, but your general knowledge in a field, so that your teachers would know what remedial steps to take, just as doctors rely on their diagnosis to decide what drugs or treatments to prescribe. In a reading center, various diagnostic machines and tests are used. These tell the clinician what is wrong with a student's reading and what measures will probably increase such a student's reading efficiency. The medical specialist in diagnosis is a diagnostician. The noun form of the verb prognosticate is prognostication. 4. Getting back to God. Theos, God, is also found in 1. Monotheism, belief in one God. Monos, one, plus theos, God. Using atheism, atheist, and atheistic as a model, write the word for the person who believes in one God, the adjective. 2. Polytheism, belief in many gods, as in ancient Greece or Rome. Polys, many, plus theos. The person with such a belief. The adjective. 3. Pantheism, belief that God is not in man's image, but is a combination of all forces of the universe. Pan, all, plus theos, the person. The adjective. 4. Theology, the study of God and religion. Theos plus logos, science or study. The student is a theologian, the adjective is theological. 5. Of sex and the tongue. A lecher practices lechery. The derivation is Old French lechier, to lick. The adjective lecherous has many close or not so close synonyms, most of them also, and significantly, starting with the letter L, a sound formed with the tongue, supposedly the seat of sensation. 1. Libidinous, from libido, pleasure. 2. Lascivious, from lascivia, wantonness. 3. Lubricious, from lubricus, slippery, the same root found in lubricate. The noun is lubricity. 4. Licentious, from licere, to be permitted, the root from which we get license, etymologically, permission, and illicit, etymologically, not permitted. 5. Lewd, the previous 4 words derive from Latin, but this one is from Anglo-Saxon lewd, vile. 6. Lustful, from an Anglo-Saxon word meaning pleasure, desire. Noun, lust. Libidinous, lascivious, lubricious, licentious, lewd, lecherous, lustful are 7 adjectives that indicate sexual desire and/or activity. The implication of all 7 words is more or less derogatory. Each adjective becomes a noun with the addition of the noun suffix ness. Lubricity and lust are alternate noun forms of 2 of the adjectives. 6. Of sex, and the itch prurient, from Latin prurio, to itch, to long for, describes someone who is filled with great sexual curiosity, desire, longing, etc. Can you form the noun? Pruritus, from the same root, is a medical condition in which the skin is very itchy, but without a rash or eruptions. Scratch enough, of course, as you will be irresistibly tempted to do, and something like a rash will soon appear. The adjective is pruritic. 7. Under and over hypochondria is built on 2 Greek roots, hypos, under, and chondros, the cartilage of the breastbone. This may sound far-fetched until you realize that under the breastbone is the abdomen. The ancient Greeks believed that morbid anxiety about one's health arose in the abdomen, and no one is more morbidly, unceasingly, and unhappily anxious about health than the hypochondriac. Hypochondriac is also an adjective. An alternate and more commonly used adjective form is hypochondriacal. Hypos, under, is a useful root to know. The hypodermic needle penetrates under the skin. A hypothyroid person has an underworking thyroid gland. Hypotension is abnormally low blood pressure. On the other hand, hyper is the Greek root meaning over. The hypercritical person is excessively fault-finding. Hyperthyroidism is an overworking of the thyroid gland. Hypertension is high blood pressure, and you can easily figure out the meanings of hyperacidity, hyperactive, hypersensitive, etc. The adjective forms of hypotension and hypertension are hypotensive and hypertensive.